almost at 2 p.m. Just gonna make sure that everything is all good now.
Oh, where's this calling? Do y'all mind if I check this?
So,
Around time I'm getting ready. Here, it's an email. What do they call it? Message.
okay. All right.
I was getting ready to say until they get here, because I think it's.
Wait a minute, because it's not showing up on my feed. Is it showing up? Oh, there we go. All right. Okay. So, hey everyone, we are back. Looking in the comment feed, ready to have a discussion on this very serious issue that happened. If we could just get somebody right now to chime in and let us know how it sounds, that'd be great. Okay, that's good. All right, so it sounds good. We're checking ourselves this time. So sorry about all of the mix-up, the technical difficulties just out of our control. But as you can see, the people who are highly, extremely invested in our community said, you know what, I'm on my way. And I think that speaks volumes for the concern that we have concerning this issue. But I want to start off with this issue, this incident that happened at the high school is just a revelation of what's been going on for a long time. It's not like, oh, I don't think that the students were surprised. I don't think that community members are surprised. None of us are really surprised by this. So what we want to do is talk about not just the incident, but the underlying issues that it's exposing, and then talk more about like what are we going to do going forward? What is it going to take for us to move from where we are right now as a community to where we really need to be? I want to just lead off with a post that I made the day before that incident took place, which was I'm gonna read it right out of the post. If we want change but don't want to go through the messiness that it takes to change, we'll never see lasting change. And so this is a part of the messiness, is actually not coming out of the gates with stuff that's, we can't even say that there's a specific incident, but to actually say, okay, here you go, right here. And that incident, I'm very upset that it happened, and I'm sure all of us are. I'm sure most of the community is very upset that it happened. So I don't want what I'm saying to be geared toward the young man who's going to need a lot of support to get through what he's going through now. I don't want it to be that. But being that happened and it was on his watch and it came from him, we have to talk about those words that came out of his mouth, and not just the words that came out of his mouth, but how strong they were and how intentional they were to hurt that young man. And so, so anybody have any other leading thoughts before I go into what I've been experiencing, what I've been hearing from students?
Well, one of my concerns is that I've expressed concerns about this consistently for some time now, and I feel like it's sad that we have to actually hear the words before we see the microaggressions. The microaggressions are real. The microaggressions come from not just people that don't look like me, but people that look like me. And we need to figure out what we're going to do about that. How did my son, he was kind of laughing because he's been tagged on some of these comments because people from outside of Illinois, they don't know who he is, they don't know who I am, and so they've included him in the negative comments and what I'll call harassment. And so, but when I explained to him why he was being tagged in it, he just looked at me, he didn't understand it. So how does this have to do with you? I think it has to do with self-hatred. I think that's the reason why it becomes about me, because we have to figure out how we can care about each other in general as humans, and then care about each other within one particular race, which within the Black community.
Yeah. So I just want to say what's up to Dietrich, Chris, Ms. Lindsay. Thank y'all for joining in, and we got some people. So right now, I just want to tell y'all, because we're getting ready to get into the meat, into some meaty conversations. So if y'all would just tag and share, invite people to join this conversation. We're looking right at the comments, whatever you have to say. If you have any questions that you want to direct it to any of us. To my left is Sharon Sykes. Tell them your exact role.
I am the dean at the junior high school, but before becoming that, I'm a citizen of Kankakee. I grew up here in this community, was raised in this community, and so my concern is this community. And so I am here to ensure that our student community, that our kids, our nieces, nephews, sons and daughters, grandchildren have a voice long after we're gone.
And then to her left is Dr. Janera Walters, the superintendent of Kankakee School District 111, who grew up on the north side,
Yay.
right around the corner from me.
Yep, Dearborn.
Yep. Harrison. and then Travis Miller, activist, young man
Yes.
that's worked with youth for a long time as well. So yeah. So Chris is asking the question, what was the issue? So,
What was the issue in the classroom?
yeah, so if that's what you're asking, Chris, what was the issue in the classroom? What happened is, hey, Sarah, good to see you. Thanks for joining. If you don't know, there was a racial slur spoken directly to a student at Kankakee High School in the classroom.
As he was exiting.
As he was exiting the classroom, non-violently, quietly. And it did include a profanity. So it was an expletive in front of that word. So do you mind if I
say the word?
I don't mind.
So he said, quote, "You fucking nigger," unquote.
Yeah. So that is what was said. Hey, Sherry. Yes. Yep, so yeah, Chris, that was from a teacher. Yep, that was from a licensed teacher in Kankakee School District 111. So here is what, because this is not to attack the teacher that did that, and my heart goes out to him because number one, he was angry. I've done things out of anger that I regret, and so I just want to make sure that y'all know that this is not about that. This is about a much bigger issue. That's why we're together.
Yes.
This is about an issue that came way before last week.
Yep, way before.
And that's what we got to deal with, and we got to deal with how do we get out of it. So what I want to share up front is just very recently, I'm not, Chris. I'm not, I promise you. I'm not excusing it. I'm just showing compassion.
I hesitate to say this, but the young man has written an apology letter to the students, which I will read to the students with the parents' permission Monday. I haven't read the apology letter. I've been swamped. So I'll have to read to see what he says. And I can't read the apology letter to anyone outside of the students without his permission. There's no excuse for what happened. I do believe that whatever is in him came out. But I also think that there's some things in people that don't come out that is still there.
Yep. Yeah, and that's what we got to deal with.
Mm-hmm.
Because so my personal experience, this is not philosophy. So my role in Kankakee School District before Kankakee School District, I was the city life director for a long time. I worked with the school district and not for the school district, and I worked with students for a long time. And one of the skills that God has given me is to be able to first gain the trust of students, because first they know I love them, I care for them, they know they watch me advocate for them.
Absolutely.
And whatever it takes. So they know that I'm not playing games with them. They're not just a number. We're not just trying to fill some kind of statistical obligation. It is what we really want to do is help them become the next leaders in our community. Mm-hmm. And so we got to do well by them. And so in so doing, on several occasions, I've had groups of students. I remember having about 60 students in here one time, and we did the exercise called "You Got Me Messed Up." And so what that is I would tell them to write down everything that they feel the community feels about them, and they write it all down, and then we took all of those phrases and we turned them into positive statements that they can make about themselves and their community. So in that, they heard things like they think we gangbangers, they think we all disrespectful, they think we all do drugs, they think that we don't care about our community, they think that we don't want to help, they think that we insignificant and we don't have anything to bring to the table, they think we unintelligent and don't want to learn. And that's painful to hear. That's very painful to hear, because it makes me reflect on being that student that wanted
Absolutely.
to help in my community, and I did want to learn, and I did want to grow and be better, but I experienced these same things when I was in high school. And I remember being put out of my high school history class because I asked the question, why are we skipping over Black history? We skipped it all. We never got to it. And so recently, just in this year, I sat down with a group of students, 2 separate groups, one in the high school, one out of the high school. And hey Tara, hey Ray, what's up, man? So I sat down with a group of students and I asked them, and this was all it was. They had no idea what I was thinking. It was not a guided question at all. I just simply asked them, how well do y'all feel supported by your community? I didn't say, how well do you feel supported by your school, by your parents? I just said, how well do you feel supported by your community? Overwhelmingly, the first place they went was to their school and the teachers and the aggression. And I'm telling you, I listened, and all I did was ask clarifying questions. So are you sane? And when I started asking them, like, are you sure? And the students was like, man, bro, like, what city you living in? So
That sounds like them.
yeah, and so check this out. I then met with another group of students in the high school. And I said, we're gonna do it was a 10-minute exercise. And the 10-minute exercise was to show that they are leaders that can come up with solutions quickly. And so I helped them brainstorm on what the issue was that they wanted to address and how they would address it. The issue ended up being, now this is a totally different group of students, about 28 of them at this time. They said, we want to be seen as people in our school.
Wow.
And they said the solution was if they could have off the clock time with teachers so they could get to know who they are, so they could be seen as people and not just as, right? And so I actually ended up bringing that to our leadership and to our board. I told them that this was a serious issue, and I knew at the time the school district was working on equity. And now we got Freedom Schools, which is to support teachers and students, to help them with all of that cultural stuff. But I was telling them then that if we don't tackle this issue, we're gonna have a big problem, and it will rip our community apart if we don't do something now. So this is not to attack. This is not to place blame. This is to say, man, if we don't get our hands around this,
It's not gonna be good.
it's not gonna be good. It's already bad enough.
And I just want to mention, because in scrolling on social media, all of the opinions, and this is, I'm asking from my heart. When you come on social media and you criticize or you have an opinion, but you don't have all the facts, because a lot of times, I mean, we're emotional creatures, right? We're emotional, right?
Right.
And so we've asked time and time again, come to the meeting so that we can have a full fact-based understanding as to what's going on. Because see, it's easy to pick up these devices, y'all, inside of our homes, and we in our safe place, and we have an opinion or we have a criticism, not realizing that the person that you're criticizing got boots on the ground, probably working 14, 15-hour days, away from their families, away from home, trying to bring a resolve. So I am asking every person that picks up their cell phone and they have an opinion, and you may not have all of the facts, please come to the meetings, lock arms with us so that we can be a part of solving the problem instead of increasing the brokenness, because this is a brokenness.
And the divisiveness.
Yes.
So I see a comment that there's no blame, that we are not in any way condoning what happened. What we're saying is that there's some things that happened way before then, even when I was in school, that were never addressed. And if we continue to let this fester and focus on one individual, we'll never get to the root of the problem. The root of the problem happened when I was in school, like when I was in elementary school, when I was in high school. It didn't change when my son got to school. He experiences microaggressions all the time, but those microaggressions have turned into big macroaggressions.
Yep.
And I know you can't say big and macro, but I just want to make sure everybody understands that it started off small with little things,
Yeah.
and it's getting bigger and bigger.
Yeah.
And if we don't, our children are not going to tolerate some of the same things that our parents tolerated. And we do need to come together as a community, the entire Kankakee community, and start addressing some of the issues that are plaguing our children.
And let's just go back a minute to the root. And I just want to say, Chris, I got you, and I hope Dr. Walters just addressed your concern as far as how we dealing with this. And I'll let Dr. Walters speak to the whole legal process of
Yes.
bringing consequences to this incident. So, but the bigger issue remains. So those words came out of his mouth, and I'm not targeting him. It's just, this is the talking point. But those students in our high school, in our junior high, in our middle school, they feel the aggression.
Even before the words
Even
are
if those
said.
words don't come out, they
They
know.
feel it. They feel it.
They know. And they observe, they watch who's being talked to. They watch who's being supported. And I know that some of our youth, they're not the most personable people in the world, but it's not because they're not personable. It's just because they feel that all those things I just listed for y'all, they feel rejected. And so as adults, we know how we feel when we get or feel rejected. We know how we respond to that. Oh, you don't like me, I don't like you, I mean, some of us got a little more maturity, and we press through that relational issue, right?
Or we detach.
But we are talking about young people who are living in this tension
Every day.
every day. I had a student, first year at Kankakee High School, came from BB. She said, Mr. Clark, I cannot believe how different it is. She said, when I went to school, and this is a young black girl, she said, when I went to school, and so this is to say, this is not all white people either. So she said, I go to school. She said, when I went to school at BB, when we walked in, it was high fives, it was good morning, it was hello, it was have a nice day when we were leaving, have a great weekend. It was just very hospitable. This is your house, right? We're supposed to be given the hospitality, right? She said, when I came to Kankakee High School, I felt like I wasn't even wanted there.
Wow.
That's coming from a student. So if one student is saying that first day observation, what are all of the other students feeling when they walk into these buildings?
And I just have to say that there are a number of teachers, and I can shout out their names, but they don't feel comfortable with being shouted out because they don't want to feel that same isolation and tension. But I can tell you some amazing teachers that but they can get overwhelmed because the students just want to go to them. Like we have to make sure that we're supporting everyone so that our kids can get as many people supporting them as possible, including our parents, Like, everybody has to support the students, the administration, the teachers, the parents, the church community, everybody has to support our students. They need all the adults to be on the same page and focused on them.
Yeah.
Can I say
So I want to
something?
read, oh, go ahead. I'm going to read a comment right after.
So, what I'm saying, just based off what a comment was shared, is what is the school or what is the district or the administration doing? So what we have two different types of system. One system is a issue that has been plaguing our world forever. And the other one is dealing with a particular individual. And what I'm hearing based off of comments and based off of social media is we are so quick to deal with the individual part. And we want the individual to be dealt with immediately. And what is the school dealing, how is the school going to handle the particular individual when it's beyond just the individual, it's the entire system that we collectively have to deal with. The district is doing within their powers, within the legal spectrum of what they're doing, that they cannot tell us, because at the end of the day, he
He has rights.
has rights. And so we want to know, how are y'all dealing with the individual part, and what are y'all going to do, and how could y'all get rid of this individual or discipline or whatever. By next week, that part may be handled and taken care of, but the system is still there, and no one seems to want to come together to focus on destroying the system. So if we can ask the district about the individual part, then who do we talk to and who do we turn to when it comes to tearing down the entire system?
And that's the community.
That takes all of us. That does not just take the administration of the district, the principals, the teachers, but as echoed before, that's going to take the clergy. That's going to take our local leaders. We are in the middle of an election cycle. Where is our local officials? Where are our leaders? We are still in the middle of a pandemic. We are still in a health crisis. Families are trying to figure out how to survive. Gas prices are high. Food prices are high. There is a lot going on in the world, and yet we only seem to kind of pick and choose different battles of what we want to focus on. So I am asking, I am pleading with our entire community. I do believe the board meeting is going to be wall to wall. But come next week,
We need to.
come next week, and I seeing a lot of people gathered in a room for a board meeting, to seeing somebody on a chopping block or whatever like that, that used to excite me. Now it bothers me. Because what excites me is not you showing up to a board meeting seeing somebody get fired, but you showing up to a board meeting seeing somebody get hired and seeing somebody get promoted, and you going into the schools and working with these students and asking support staff how I can assist you, being there for our principals, being there for our teachers and students. I hear over and over and over again, what is the district, again, pointing that finger at the district, what is the district going to do as it relates to a teacher shortage? Well, there's another shortage in the community. That's a shortage of fathers. What are we doing when it comes to a shortage of fathers and a shortage of parents and a shortage of guardians and a shortage of mentors? Because the district can hire 100 teachers, 100 support staff,
Instructors.
and they can end the teacher shortage that is affecting not just Kankakee School District, but affecting the world. There's a shortage of bus drivers. We know that. There's a shortage of truck drivers. Everywhere you go, if you just jump on Court Street and you ride down one end of Court Street to the other end of Court Street, almost every business you see going to have a sign that says, "We are hiring." There's a shortage everywhere. but we understand and we know about the shortage of teachers. But what are we gonna do with the shortages that is in the homes? The shortage that is in the churches? We're short everywhere. And so I'm asking that we not just always and continue to point the blame on the district when it comes to handling the individual part. What a particular teacher did, what a particular staff member did, but we need as a community to destroy the entire system.
So when,
That's good.
and now I just want to piggyback off of that. So when we saying come to the board meeting, I concur. Like, it's great to come to the board meeting, but when you come to a community meeting or a board meeting and the need is being expressed and you just go back home and don't do anything
Until the next incident.
until the
Yeah.
next incident, we just reacting instead of being proactive.
Proactive, yeah.
And so I mean, just through the school district, and I'm not even gonna talk about all the other programs, just through the school district, there's parenting programs, there are mentoring programs. The school literally has rolled out a green carpet to people that wanna come in and support
Absolutely.
students. We've asked pastors, lay people, can you just come, just hang out during lunchtime? Just come during lunchtime, one day a week, 30 minutes, one lunch period. Just come so kids get to start seeing that this is not just about coming and being educated. Y'all not just about the problems, y'all actually here to come and help us. But we still have to deal with this issue called race. And this thing, and I feel like, I'm just gonna say this might sound very opinionated. I know some people think that racism don't exist no more and all of this kind of stuff. And y'all, if you know me, you know I'm not running around saying that racism is hiding around every little corner. But racism does have a stronghold in our community, in our relationships, and our kids' ability to grow up and feel supported when they are the minority in a community they just don't feel supported in. That makes kids angry. That makes them afraid. That makes them become irresponsible. That depresses them. That's why they smoking weed.
Yeah, I actually do think the weed is self-medication. I'm not saying it's good, it's bad, because it's legal now, but I do believe, just from talking to some of my students, who will remain nameless, I think it's self-medication. I really do think that students are struggling with anxiety, with depression, with all kinds of things.
Rejection and abandonment.
And then they resort to trying to make themselves feel better in a way that I don't necessarily agree with, but at the same time, though, it's the adult's problem. Like, it's the adult, we keep focusing on children that have not completely grown. They're not getting paid. Yes, school is payment eventually, but they're not getting paid. We adults, and I mean all the adults, we're responsible for them. We're responsible for who they become. We're responsible for that. It is not the child's fault, no matter what they did, that they were called a name, because we're supposed to be helping them to grow. We're not supposed to be crucifying them, kicking them out of school all the time. Like, we're supposed to help them grow. If we continue to undereducate the students in Kankakee School District 111, the community's not gonna grow.
So I want to answer a question. So one question was, this is from Erica. She said, I will volunteer. What can I do to help? So I can give you some ideas, but Dr. Walters might be able to.
Youth empowerment.
Well, yeah, the youth empowerment program. But I will tell you, I was just at Taft this week, and they were kind of really stressing. And my mind always thinks, how do you help, right? So I'm like, man, what if we had somebody to come in here and just read to the students? She said they would love that. So just coming, sitting in a classroom, the teachers are so open for help. It's not just the lunchroom. It's not just walking through the hallways. It's also in the classroom. There are so many teachers that are so open. It's just, she said, yeah, I would love you to come read. I'll tell you something I did before I started working with the school district. I would come in the morning when the kids were getting off the bus just to say good morning.
Wow.
And I would come in the afternoon when the kids were going home just to say, hey, be careful, have a good day. So sometimes the obligation can be very small, very small.
It makes a huge difference.
But it makes a big difference. When they start seeing your face, and then they see you at Jewel, or at the park, or
That's village.
riding your bike, then it's like, hey, I know you were at the school. That's what makes a difference. I gotta tell this story. People worry about dangerous young men and women in the community. I was riding down Evergreen, right there in the 300 block. Y'all remember when it was real hot? I'm riding down Evergreen. The street is blocked. My guess was they was shooting dice in the middle of the street, but they got the street blocked. So I'm rolling down, I roll up, I just ease up on them, and I know how things are. You don't roll up on a group and just lay on your horn. So I just tapped it, boop, boop. And they turned around and looked, kept doing what they was doing. So I got a little bit closer, and I gave another little bump. Dude looked at me, he said, oh, that's Brother Aaron. And I knew then, my investment in just them getting to know my face, that was my safety net that day.
That's real.
If they don't know you, sometimes it's like that could be a problem for you.
Well, I know even at the junior high, when students are maybe acting up or just, having a rebellious moment, I'll call it that, I will pick up my phone and I'll say, I'm gonna call your folks. And the first thing, Miss Sykes, you got my mother phone number? Yeah, I got it right here. I'm getting ready to call her. And a couple of times I got parents on speakerphone. That changed the whole trajectory of my relationship with that student, because now they know, man, Miss Sykes got a connection to my house. You see what I'm saying? So just think, if the parents will walk the hallways, now I don't have to say, I'm gonna get your mother on the phone, I'm gonna get your dad on the phone, I'm gonna get your people on the phone. Now you see them walking through, if they're doing nothing but, like you said, walking through. One of the blessed things that we are developing, that you're a part of, Dads on Deck. Shout out to Jahil and Kyrie. They come in, they walk the classrooms. They are literally walking in the building, of course, going through the process to get in the building, and they are walking in classrooms, and students like, okay, well, who is that? And they're coming and they're checking in. If we could really bring the village back to education.
In a positive way, and not
In
to
a
fight the
positive
kids.
way, and not a critical way, and not, right, in a positive way, if we could do that, because my experience with coming up in the school district, from kindergarten to my senior year, I could probably count 4 teachers. That's a poor number. From kindergarten to my senior year. Mind you, back then when you hit 6th grade, you had like 7, 8 classes. 4 teachers from kindergarten to 12th grade that I felt was really invested in me as an individual.
Now I have to say that I can name every teacher from kindergarten all the way through at least 5th grade. I mean, literally name them. And I do feel like they invested in me. But when we combine schools, I experienced things that I had never experienced before. Like comments that were made, microaggressions that were stated. Someone said that I didn't know how to write a paper, was surprised that I wrote the paper. The students in the classroom had to say, yes, she wrote the paper, she can write. I mean, it was just something very different. But if you think about it, that goes back to relationships. So I had teachers that I had never been around at all, that we were combining, and so they knew some kids, they didn't know all of us. But why did they assume that I couldn't write a paper? Like, where did that assumption come from? I was in honors classes, so why did they assume that I wrote, that this paper that was written was not mine? That's a microaggression.
I want to get to some comments. This is Ashley.
She broke Dusty, what he just said?
No, I'm going back to make sure I didn't miss any.
He said,
So this is
the kids
Ashley.
can sense that adults are not invested?
100%.
We
I know
need to-
Lorenz can.
So here's a one. We need to do more. So it's 2. I want to do. We wouldn't be having this conversation if it wasn't for this guy. I want to address that. But before we do is we need to do more to address the mental health of the
100%.
people around our children.
Absolutely,
Because how
100%.
can we expect mentally healthy kids when the people they're surrounded by
Can I speak
aren't
to that?
mentally healthy.
That's
Can I
good.
speak to
That's a
that?
great comment.
And I
yes.
want to speak to the first one, and she
Okay.
can speak to the second one.
So, do you want to go first?
I want to speak to the first part of that question. You can speak to the second part.
You can go. Yeah.
Oh, so the first part of the question was saying that we wouldn't be having this conversation if it wasn't for this individual. The thing is, we've been having this conversation. This incident has went globally, where you look on almost every social media network, you look
outlet,
all
yeah.
over the news, you look on all of these different outlets. It is all over. So publicly, the situation has been addressed, but the conversations that we're currently having here in front of everybody is conversations that we've had before, continue to have, and will continue to have in the future. But the fact that that someone will believe like that we are only addressing this particular situation, we speak a lot as well as so many others within the community. She just named Dares on Deck. Another is Mothers.
Muffins with moms.
Yeah,
Muffins with Mom.
Well, it might be another one.
I call it matriarchs and moms.
Yeah, so it's-
Matriarchs, moms and
that's a good
matriarchs on a mission.
Yeah,
I like
so
that.
it's so
Yeah, I
many
like that.
different programs within the
Giving
district.
kids jobs to
that-
youth empowerment.
Youth
Yeah,
empowerment has a
youth
plethora.
empowerment. So it's like the conversation, and I think Aaron had mentioned earlier, is we are always having these particular conversations. Yes, the situation that just happened a few days ago is caused us to kind of go live to just answer some questions, being that this has kind of went globally, but I don't want anybody to think that we
We haven't
don't
been having
address
conversations.
or any other conversation that
Right.
just not plague the district, but that truly plagues our
community.
entire community.
So I just want to say that we have an equity coach. Her name is Dr. Anise Fisher. She's been working with us, I think it's been 2 years now. So she started with training with central office in particular. She's done board training. She will be with the teachers on Monday. She's already worked with the secretaries, the custodial staff, and the support staff. She has a team of people that are coming in and talking about equity. The reason we started working with her is because we have equity issues. Yes, we're a diverse community. I mean, diversity just means who's in the room. But there's no inclusivity. Like, we're not inclusive, meaning that everyone gets a voice and everyone's voice is valued. And then equity is everybody gets what they need. When we try to put systems together to help everybody have a voice and get what they need, we push back and a lot of other people push back. And so it's really hard to get to equity when people are actually not in harmony with each other. And if you look back, like, another reason why we can't say that this is an incident that we're dealing with is last year the scheduling issue was an equity issue. And if you go back and look at the CBS News, I said that. So I think the problem is that it has to be in your face and really blatant before we realize that there are little things that are happening that are hurting our children. And not just happening in school, happening in their homes, happening in the community. Like, there are things that are hurting our children across this entire community, and we have to come together to work on that. Instead of like fighting with each other as adults, let's just focus on the kids. You may not like me, I may have done things to offend you, I apologize if I did, but our kids are the ones that are suffering when the adults are constantly fighting and blaming each other.
Absolutely. And I just want to mention this real fast. This comment that was said to this student, we all been saying it's not new, right? But what it has done, it has exposed and it has revealed, right? It has exposed some parts
Sure.
that we already knew. Okay, we already know racism is a real thing, right? Because a lot of us as African Americans, we have to work triple hard.
100%.
Okay? But here's the other thing, y'all, and this is the part that we really not talking about. We are passive in our community, a lot of us, right? We are comfortable having an opinion but not locking elbows and coming in and being a part of the resolve.
Yeah.
Okay, I mean, and this is not a point of finger moment. It's really not.
Yeah.
It's a moment to say, okay, if I can come on a post and say what needs to be done, like somebody just said, teachers need better
Mental
classroom
health.
management skills,
That's
and they
true.
need, and guess what? You're 100% correct. So, in pointing that out, it would be great to present some ideas about what that would look like for some of our teachers. Because I've always said from the beginning, without relationship, there's no teaching and there's no learning. So my first approach as an advocate for kids, I'll just say advocate for kids, I want to get to know them. Like in one of our workshops at school, I asked one of the students, I was like, what is your favorite color? And she thought about, she's like, man, Miss Sykes, nobody never asked me what is my favorite color. Like nobody never asked that question. So I just want to say that the ideas that are coming in the threads is super awesome. I'm gonna say take the next step and present a plan or an idea that will edify the educational process, because it's a lot of things that we don't know about our kids. And when you take the time to maybe go by their house or visit them, now you understand, okay, now I understand why you act like that. Now I understand why you detach or you're defiant or you have that part of you. So let me put some nurturing on it. Let me put some loving on it. Let me put some healing on it through the relationship.
Yeah.
Through the relationship. That's that piece right there.
And, okay, so someone is asking, how do students know about K-3, the Youth Empowerment Program? So the Youth Empowerment Program is from 6th through 12th grade. Every 6th through 12th grader has received an invitation that includes every program they can get involved in. As far as the parents, I'm not sure how well we've communicated to parents, but I know communication has gone out to all of the parents in some form or fashion.
Well, so the parent piece was just added on at the beginning of the school year with Pastor Sammy Jones. Well, I should say Pastor Sammy Jones. I call him pastor because he was my youth pastor. And it's called the Parent Empowerment Program. So we haven't communicated a lot about it because he's developing the program.
Okay.
So I know he's been out in the community talking to people about what his goals are and what he hopes to achieve by pulling the community and the parents together.
Yep, and for more information, you can go to k3youthempowerment.org. So
Man,
you just want to
somebody
touch
put that-
down on that, K3 Youth
K3,
Empowerment.
put that on the
Yeah,
thread.
k3youthempowerment.org. That'll tell you more. You can sign up for, I know at least for the youth, but you can definitely reach out to somebody through that, through the
Can I make a
website.
comment about the mental health?
Yes.
So as we're coming out of the pandemic, I know people think we're tired of hearing about the pandemic, but I don't think that people understand what has happened to people as a result of being isolated for a whole year. And so there are adults, some students, but honestly, based on what I'm observing, a lot of adults that are struggling coming out of that isolation. And so they're edgy, they're short, they have a lot of anxiety. I am not saying that that's what happened with this teacher because I don't know. Like, I really don't know that teacher very well. But I do know a lot of other teachers that I've known for a while that are different from who they were before the pandemic. So that's the reason why we're really trying to focus on adult wellness and bringing things in to help the adults. 10 years ago, I would have said we shouldn't do that. But right now, if we don't, we're going to lose our students as a result of the adults struggling coming out of the pandemic.
Yeah, and so what I'm thinking about this, the whole struggle in light of this recent event. So if you add a pandemic, you add inflation,
Oh, yes.
you add national narratives that are dictating what's going on locally, like with law enforcement and things like that, which are not the case here. And then you add the racial tension that we never really deal with. We never really deal with it. It's at some point it's going to pop. It's going to pop. And so what I'm going to say, and I'm going to say this as a man of God. In my 30s, in my 30s, as a Bible-toting, church-going believer, praying every day, doing outreach, preaching, all this stuff. It was revealed to me that I had a problem with race. And I had to start really paying attention to how that was playing out in my relationships with white people. And so, we got a lot of, like, I have a lot of white friends, and I challenge them with this. Like, are we really checking our hearts as it relates to race? Because it's hard enough when you're in a community where over 60% of the people live below the median income. It's hard enough when you got all these missing fathers, like Travis said. So now you got a bunch of moms piecing together salaries, working 2 and 3 jobs with swing shifts and all of this stuff. And I know and respect that it starts at home. So I read that comment. I just want you to know
But
that.
it's rough being a single mother. I don't care how much money you have, it's rough.
Either way it goes. And so I'm saying.
That's why I shout out to single mothers.
Yes.
Shout out
It's
to all the
rough.
single mothers.
It's
Yes.
rough.
And so I think that, so even as a community, when we look at our youth and the perception they feel that's coming toward them, then you have the single moms, as if they ain't working hard, as if they don't love their kids, as if they don't want to be there, but when they got to work, they got to work. Like, we have kids here, and it's like, please don't pick them up early. I got to go to work.
That's true.
I ain't got nobody else to pick
Oh,
my kids up.
the transportation issue is wreaking
That's a
havoc
real
on single
thing.
parents.
That's a real
And I'm
thing.
gonna say single parents too, because we have a lot of single dads out there.
Yes.
So the transportation is wreaking havoc on, I'm not gonna say us, because Lorenz hasn't been on the bus in years, even when he was blamed for doing stuff on the bus that he wasn't even on the bus. But I know when you have to be at work at a certain time, you have to be on work at a certain time. And when you clock in, it's important to clock in on time. So, because it's not like I've never had to clock in. And so then you're sitting here waiting for the daycare center, the bus, and they don't come. That is stressful.
It is.
Especially when the food prices have gone up, the gas prices have gone up, you can't afford to get your kid's hair cut. Like, that's stressful.
And the programs that you maybe would like them in,
You can't
don't,
afford.
or you don't have the support
To get them
to
there.
get them there or get them home. And
To
so,
get
and
them
I mean,
there.
the school district has really stepped up with all them vans running kids here and there, and just, it's amazing. But hear me out
And
when I
we
say
need
this.
drivers.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
do
we
need
need
We
drivers.
need drivers, y'all.
For those
the
vans, not for the school.
Like, we got
Vans.
like 15 vans?
Yeah, we have
Yeah.
15 vans, we need drivers.
Need drivers, y'all.
Yep.
Yeah.
So what I want to say, because this thing, when it comes to race and going back to my own heart, I didn't have relationships with white people when that was revealed to me. Not at all.
Wow.
But I also would not have said that I had a problem with white people. I was cordial with white people. I had people that I've worked with, and maybe even had a beer with every now and then, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, he was just cool like that on the
Right.
surface.
Yeah, I was cool like that, but deep down to like actually have deep, intimate working relationships with white people, they didn't exist at all. And that was a problem. That was my heart. And so now just imagine, I'm a working man. I'm trying to, do the right thing. I'm a citizen. I got a family and all of these other things. Now take that and transpose that heart issue into a young person, or take that and transpose that same thing into the heart of a teacher. And I want to make this seem like it's because these same kids that said that they felt a lot of aggression, racial aggression, they shouted out the teachers that was white and like, oh, no, they cool.
Yeah,
They cool.
I would love to
This one
shout
cool.
the
This one
teachers
cool. This
out
one cool. So
that-
they didn't
that
feel like,
support
yeah, they didn't
Because there
feel
are
like,
a lot of teachers that
there are
support
a
the
lot
kids,
of, yeah.
but they're afraid to be shouted out because they don't want to be isolated. And it's not, and let me be clear though, we have about 70, 80, I can't remember the number at the high school. There's 300 teachers in the district. We're not talking about 80%. We're not talking about 50%. but we're talking about enough of a percentage that it has an impact on the students. So I want to be clear, it's not, I don't even know if it's more than 20%. Like, there's some things you don't know because you don't know what's in people's heart. But I'm just talking about the actions that we see. I would say it's about 20%.
Yeah, and even with that 20%, it doesn't just impact the students. It impacts the team that's coming around these students every day. I mean, it is a sour note that's playing
With
every
the
day
adults in the school,
with the
too.
adults in the school building. So it's like the adults need to step up. And I know sometimes it's hard. It's like, I need to call them out on their mess, but I also need to teach this math class.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
And I do have to say something. Now, this is from me. This is from Janera, from my heart. I work with the administrators, do I not?
Yes.
I do not work with teachers. So if people are saying that I am doing things to teachers, I don't even know all 300 teachers. I don't know all 900 staff members. So it's a climate and a culture in buildings that's not the majority, but it's enough to impact the culture of the building. There's 11 buildings. One person can't impact the culture of 11 buildings. And so that's the reason why I'm asking for us to come together and work on it instead of blaming one person. Honestly, if people want to blame me for the next year, that's fine. But then when I leave, you're going to have a problem that has not been resolved. And so that's my concern. This is my community. I grew up here. I grew up on Dearborn, decided to come back, and I came back for the children. I know I have to work on on adults, and I'm not talking about teachers. I'm talking about adults that are hurting kids. I know I have to work on that. But my primary responsibility is to make sure that the children grow, all of the children grow, and they can't grow if they're not treated well.
I want to get to a comment back to the Youth Empowerment Program. So just so you know, when the Youth Empowerment Program was initially started, there was a massive campaign where they actually went into each school building 6 through 12, and I know at least for 6 through 8, every student, they brought them down by group.
Yep.
Told them what the program is, here's how you sign up. So this is Teresa just saying, you know, not every kid is going to want to sign up. They might turn their nose up at it, and that's very true.
Yeah.
But you know what, right now, so I don't know every student, so I'm speaking based on the students that I've interacted with. Right now, students are really interested in it because of the employment piece. So we do have employment at different levels depending on the students' work skills, work ethic, and their social skills. And the students have an opportunity to actually it's $15 an hour for the students. And they're learning skills that they need to learn before they become adults.
And it's also preparing them for the workforce. Let's say they don't go to college. College may not be something that they want to do. They are literally getting a work skill, a social skill, where they, even with the tax thing, remember when they got their checks,
Yeah,
and they were looking at
they were
how
like,
the government was taking their
Right,
money?
yeah,
No
like,
disrespect to the government.
why did the government need our money?
Right. So they're even learning what the taxpayer process is. So it's all a part of the life skill process with the youth empowerment piece.
And what I've seen also is some of them be able to, with clarity, say, okay, I know what I want to go to school for now.
Yeah.
Like, I want to do this. This is what I want to do. So that's really cool. So what do we do? Because, you know, what do we do going forward from this incident? I know somebody asked about the CDL for the van. You do not have to have a CDL to drive the vans. It's a passenger van.
But at the board meeting on Monday, we are going to talk about taking over transportation. So we do not own the transportation company. We purchase their service. And the services are not good, and it's not their fault. It's because there's a shortage of bus drivers. So what we're proposing, and you'll hear the proposal on Monday, what we're proposing is that the school district look at an option of, you know, can we handle this service? If we can handle the service, we'll increase the pay and we'll offer benefits. That has not been decided. We're discussing it on Monday, and then everyone will get to think about it in the community and on the board, and then we'll make a decision later. So if you're interested in being a bus driver for more than we're offering now, just stay tuned. We'll know for sure what we decide to do in the next probably month.
Let me, this is Broke Dust. I got to read this comment. He said, I think that's a conversation that needs to be had first, the adults. The adults cannot continue to butt heads and expect the
That's
kids
good, that's good.
to be on one
One
accord.
accord, that's good.
How can we orchestrate an open forum where adults can voice their issues and we all come up with consistent solutions?
That's good.
That's really
That's
good.
good.
That's really good. So I would say one place to first get educated, like come to the board meetings, I would say that. And I know sometimes the board meetings is like, what are we talking about? Where are we
That's why we have a
going?
community
You know, I
space
didn't
too.
come for this. But that would be a place to start engaging other parents. But maybe that's something that we need to work. Travis, you're getting ready to have a meeting, right? Or are you?
No, not
Okay, I thought.
So, that's a great question, Mitch, as to, what can we do? I think one of the things that I see a lot is people want to help, but they just don't know where they are needed or what they are capable and able to do. So if somebody say, well, we need help in the area of curriculum, and somebody who really doesn't know math or English or Spanish, we just don't want to throw them in the area to help with curriculum when they got a background in transportation. And we could say, well, you want to help, let's have you help with transportation. And so I think what's happening is people are getting frustrated because they want to help, they have ideas, they have solutions, but they just don't know where to start. And so I liked the question earlier as to how do you get information about these particular programs. So I would say reaching out to the schools, reaching out to the principals and assistant principals and the deans to see what programs are under the umbrella of that particular school or within the district that you may want to be able to help and volunteer for. But this is a time where we need to roll up our sleeves, and what we're doing is putting on boxing gloves and wanting to knock out the next person because of something that was said previously in the past. We have a whole lot of people that are holding on to grudges and hatred and issues that is from Lord knows when. You know, I didn't like the fact that in 2015, and I'm just using this as an example, there was a uniform policy in place. And here it is, 2022, we are so far beyond that, and you're still holding on to that particular issue. Well, the school picked up my child late, and I had to take off work to go pick up my child and get them to school. Nobody is upset with the bus company. We're upset with the district. And so we make things that are so petty, we make them so personal. And so we're never able to really come together, set aside our differences, set aside our issues, and truly move forward for the kids. The kids see everything we say and do. So if we're verbally boxing and fighting online, we can't get upset with them because they got caught on camera fighting, you know, because they looking at us and saying, well, y'all may not have been in a physical altercation, but y'all was in an altercation. Y'all was fighting and
on social media.
On social media, and you was calling this person that. And so like we have to advance our maturity level, and we truly have to come together. And the conversations need to continue to happen. We need spaces within the churches, spaces within community centers. We need people to open up. We should not always have to depend on the school, the gyms, the auditoriums for spaces. So you say, okay, well, how can we continue to have these conversations? So we need preachers and pastors and clergies and laymen to truly open up your churches, or we need the park district, you know, to open up your buildings. We need everybody to get on board. That way we continue to have these conversations. But the thing is, we just don't want to continue to have conversations.
Exactly. Right.
And just continue talking, because then we say, okay, well, we're going to have a conversation for the next 5 years. Well, that's all we're doing is we're just talking. but we have to implement, and we have to have
Demonstrate.
action, and we have to demonstrate. And so that is what's needed. So like, I think all those who are saying, and I'm loving the thread, the comments, like, we truly need to continue to move forward for our students, because they are not our students of tomorrow. They are our scholars of today. And so, like, they are going to be the ones that's going to be taking care of us when we are in wheelchairs and on walkers and whatever like that. So we want to make sure that they are equipped, and they are. I love our district. I love our students. We have one of the greatest school districts in our nation. And I just have to be biased in saying that we do.
Definitely
I love
progressive.
Kankakee School District.
So let me go back to this adults, just to piggyback on what you're saying, because here, inevitably, people are gonna come and help. I see it in the threads. What can I do? How can I help? And thank you. That's gonna move mountains. The thing that I want to caution you as you come to help, first, you have to be persistent. That you are
Relentless.
going to help. You have to be relentless. That you're going to help. When I first started volunteering with the school district, I felt like my head was swirling with all of the opportunities and getting pushed over and I responded to and all of these things. I mean, it's a huge district, number one. It's
And I
a
don't-
lot of
and-
moving pieces.
And I don't think people realize that, just like I don't think they realize that we're one of the largest districts in the state of Illinois.
Right.
Take Chicago and Evanston out, but we're one of the largest districts. And so some
South
of
of
the,
80?
yeah, some of the expectations are really unrealistic. No one can know everything that goes on in our district because it's a large district.
It's a very large district.
Yeah.
But I made up my mind that I was gonna help. And I found a way to help. And then, here's the other thing I want to caution you about. When you come in, there are so many moving pieces. There's so many things that change, sometimes suddenly, sometimes without us being notified, right? But if you come in to help, come to help and not to criticize.
Yeah.
Because it's so, and I've watched people do this over and over again. It's like, look, man, just come and observe and find you a spot and plant your feet, dig your heels in, and don't turn back. Just help. You will make a difference. But sometimes a lot of people will come, and I don't think they realize, sometimes it's just what's in you that makes you want to come and just criticize, and then you gone. And now you got all of this bad stuff to say about the district and about people you don't even know or people you didn't work with. So I just really want to caution you, like, when you do come to help, be ready to help. Be ready to deal with some of the things that maybe the district is still developing, like the parent program.
Yes,
That's a
it's
work,
in
it's
development.
being developed. Sometimes you might get pulled into something that's being developed. Stick with it. Don't stop. Don't stop helping. And this, I tell people who are coming to help all the time, please, our children already feel enough abandonment.
They do.
They already feel
Don't start
enough
and stop.
rejection. If you're coming, don't be that person that walk out on them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you're gonna come and do it, come and do it. Don't come and be that person that they quickly, because they are looking for people who have love in their hearts and that want to help and that will stretch out a hand when they're in trouble. And they will quickly give you trust and confide in you. And then if you just up and just don't show up again, there's another person just walked away from you.
I just want to say something too, is that I want us to give our children the same grace that we want as adults.
That's good.
So because, we're quick to say what kids should have to do and what we should do to them when they don't. But I just want to know who in this group that's watching us has done everything they're supposed to do at work,
With
all the time,
perfectly.
on time, every single time the supervisor asks you, you've never been in trouble, never been late, and you were consequenced, like you lost a day of pay, or you lost this, or you lost that. That doesn't happen to adults very often, but we're quick to say students need to be punished when they're 15 and 16 and 17, but you're 40 and 50 and 60, but you don't want a day of pay to lose, even when you didn't do what you were supposed to do. Like, I just struggle with the belief that I call it adultism. You have racism, you have adultism. I just struggle with the idea that students should be held at a higher standard as they're growing and learning than adults who should have already learned.
And so I want to say this to our faith community as well. You know, when you have a school district, like, so as a city life director, I've been all over the nation and dealt with directors and people leading all over the nation. And when I tell them about the working relationship that the City Life Center has with the school district, they're like, what? Like, what town is this? Our school district has invited the church into the district, saying, not just invited, send out letters, will you come and help? And I think for our faith community, if you see an opportunity, if you, okay, let's just say, you looking at the, we're gonna just go on, you know, on the spiritual level with this. If you say there's darkness, and you know you called to be a light, but you just wanna stay in the light. You don't wanna go to where the darkness is and be a light in the, that's what it said, we're supposed to be a light in the midst of darkness, right?
Amen.
Yeah.
If you just gonna step back and remove yourself because there's darkness, then you missing your calling.
I just want to say that I have reached out to community leaders, to community organizations. I've expressed my concern around things that have happened and affected primarily our minority administrators and some of our young men, our young African-American boys. I've expressed concerns, I've talked about it, I've explained it, I've given data, and until this happened, I feel like people didn't take me seriously. And that's sad that and I actually think our students handled it well. The laughter, by the way, was nervous laughter. So, because I did talk to those students an hour after it happened. I was at the junior high, I came over to the high school and I talked to them. They said they'd never experienced anything like that. They didn't know what to do. Like, you know, I know it kind of sounded crazy that we were laughing, but we were in shock. That's what the students said. They were laughing because they were in shock.
Can I also say, and I spoke with Dr. Walters and Dean Sykes about this as well. We ought to commend the students in that classroom.
Because that could have been bad.
Because that could have went a whole
Real
nother
bad.
direction. And so what we took as laughter, if it would have went bad, then we would have said, okay, well, Dr. Walters, what are you gonna do about the students based off of how they reacted to this situation? And so now you got almost 20 to 25 students, however many was in the classroom, now in trouble. And so I commend the students who remained respectful, even though they may have been shaken up based off the laughter, but I commend them to have to sit and deal with that. To the young man that was in that classroom, for him to get up and remove himself from the situation.
Very good choice. That was a good choice.
We have to commend that, and no one seems to want to talk about that.
That they're not really violent.
Yeah.
Because that would have been a time that could have been real
I
violent.
worked in Chicago Heights, and I worked in Chicago at Crane High School when I was doing my first internship. That could have went really bad.
Yeah.
And so, in my opinion, our kids showed a great deal of restraint.
Great deal of discipline.
And actually, I will say that that's one of the things that in the apology letter, that I did skim one thing that the teacher recognized that the students demonstrated a great deal of restraint.
Kudos to those students.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, so now what can you do? Stop by your local school. Now, I'm gonna tell you, people that have asked me, like, oh, I went by the school and I'm like, here's what I used to do. I would plan an hour. So first thing you should do is try to set an appointment. You may not get a hold of the principal, see if you can get a hold of the principal's secretary, and see if you can get on their calendar. I would say when you go into that meeting, have what you would like to do in mind, and just simply go with an open hand and say, what can I do to help? When you set that meeting, let the secretary know that that's what the meeting is about, so the principal can have a little time. When you go, like the last meeting I set with a principal with Dr. Sims, I said, I need 15 minutes, I promise. And I was done in 5. They don't have a lot of time. And be careful, like if you're just gonna drop in to observe, be mindful of the time of day, be mindful of what's going on in the community,
In the school.
And the
and
school.
what's going on in the school, and be patient. You know, so that would be the first thing I would say is stop by the school, especially if you have a child in the school. Find out how you can help through the administrator in the building.
And and if you can't come to school during the day, make sure your students are doing their schoolwork. So, I mean, there's a lot of discussion about CBE allows students to wait till the last minute to do their work. No, before CBE, the kids weren't doing their work. Like, that was the reason why we had all of those credit recovery classes. Like, if we can just come together and ask any child that's school age, did you finish your homework? Now, I will tell you, they're kids. Some of them are going to say yes and hope to get it fixed before you find out that's not true. So sometimes, like, if you need somebody to help you, show you how to look it up, like, we'll show you how to look to see if the kids are actually doing their work. Like, for the high school, we are switching from Slate, which was how they graded in CBE in the past, to Skyward, because for me, as a parent, it's much easier for me to open it up and look in Skyward. And so we want to switch, we want to make it as simple as possible for us as parents, that we can just open it up, there's little dots on your phone, you pull it up, you know what your kids are missing. So we want us to go back to that. But what's most important is, when we get to March or April, and parents are concerned about their kids graduating, most students that did 90% of their work are going to graduate. You have to do the work. Help your nieces, nephews, cousins, friends, neighbors with just making sure that they're doing the work that the teachers are giving them.
And you don't have to come to the school for
And
that.
you don't have to come to school for that.
Or be a part of the parenting classes so that they can know exactly
What
what
to
to
look
expect.
for.
And check Skyward for attendance.
Yep, oh yes. Make sure that this is probably more high school than even junior high. Our kids are figuring out how they can not go to the class that they're supposed to go to. That's something that we have to get a really good system in place to make sure students aren't skipping. But now let's not, like, pretend like we didn't
skip
have
class.
kids that skip.
We know
I mean, we didn't skip ourselves. I'm gonna be honest with you. I love school,
Oh.
but my kids didn't. I mean, Shayna probably was going in a tardy hall when she had a test to do. So, I mean, like, the kids aren't necessarily like us, and that's okay. Like, my son is not like me. My nephew is probably more like me than my son is, and that's okay.
Just real quick, I think sometimes we look at an organization or business and we assume that the CEO or the head of that business hired every single person
hire anybody.
from janitor to whoever. So I'm seeing a lot, or seeing a particular comment as it relates to the hiring of teachers, and I do want Dr. Waters to kind of, one of the things we have to do is educate our community. So just kind of explain how teachers are hired, because the superintendent
Does not hire.
of schools
Does not run
do
HR
not
department.
hire a teacher at Taft or Edison or LCC. So just kind of just touch base on that process.
So we do this thing called Rumor Buster. Rumor Buster. We are not overlooking licensed teachers to hire instructors. Now, once the instructor's in the position, we're not going to kick them out, because I know that there is a situation where I can tell that the goal is to get that particular instructor out so that someone else can come in. Now, we're not doing that because that's not right. But we are looking for licensed teachers all the time. We do hire instructors. The original intent of hiring instructors was, so for example, we had 2 chefs teaching the culinary arts class. We have a doctor that's teaching biology. That was the original intent. So when the teacher shortage hit, we started to have to cover classes that we didn't really intend to cover with an instructor. And so the principal goes into what we call frontline, and then they look for applicants. They pull the applicants, they interview, then they fill out a form that makes a recommendation to HR in order to hire. HR does not interview teachers. Superintendent does not interview teachers, the principal interviews teachers. Sometimes the principal will have a team, especially at the junior high and high school, because it's so content driven. And so sometimes the principal will decide, and they make that decision, that they want to include like a content specialist in English to interview an English teacher. So, but we don't look over licensed teachers to hire instructors, but when we do hire instructors, they have to have a background in that particular field. By the way, I am going to shout out to Dr. Green. From what I understand, I haven't been in her classroom, the kids are amazed at her knowledge of biology because she was a doctor. And so from what I understand, she's not having any major problems in her class. I think it also has to do with her mother and father being teachers. But she's doing an amazing job. You know, we have instructors that are doing an amazing job, but that's because they're teaching within their field, kind of like the junior college model. But if you have a licensed teacher that you know that wants a job, just let us know. We're having a hard time finding licensed teachers. Let us know. We're not overlooking them.
Okay, so looking at going forward, I think one of the good things that came out of this conversation was some type of community forum.
Yes.
So first, I want to ask you all
To everybody
by
who's
by
gonna
a
catch the
sh-
playback, too.
huh?
Everybody who's gonna catch the playback.
Yeah. So for you all that are watching now and maybe even watching later, would you be willing to join a community
I
forum?
think it needs to be in a church.
And this is what I believe, and I don't want to like overstep my bounds here, but I believe that what needs to happen, I don't think people know everything that's going on in the
Oh,
district
100%.
and know all of the different opportunities there are
And
for
moving
them to get
parts.
involved, right? And the process to get involved. So that could be a part of that community forum to address that. I think that also to have a community forum, we need to continue to have the conversation around the aggression that the students are feeling.
Yes.
And what do we
Absolutely.
do as a community to support the teachers as well as the students who are feeling
To
the
bring
aggression?
healing.
Yes.
I think that there are teachers that are kind of fed up with what they see, but it's like you said, they don't want to, they don't want to step out there like that. I think that I
Yeah,
think
there are
everybody involved.
So let me speak to that, and I apologize.
That's okay.
There are teachers that are absolutely concerned about the accountability of other teachers. But they'll say it in a meeting, when we have KFT informals where we're in meetings when people are able to say, no, we need to hold everyone accountable, but they won't say it in front of their peers. And so there are teachers that do want us to hold other teachers accountable. They're making $40, $50, $60, $70, $80,000 along someone that's making the same amount of money but is not doing the same quality of work. And they don't feel it's fair.
Yeah. So the teachers do need support. They are there's support being added. They're doing stuff during the workday.
And after.
In the building. They got therapists coming in. They got all kind of stuff that's happening before and after school, all types of resources. So just know that the district is working to support the teachers and their mental health. TheraPlay has been provided for our kids, which is therapy through play. That's taken off for all K through 3 schools. The teachers and the kids love it.
Can I say, I just want to shout out to TheraPlay. I'm a school social worker in my heart. I'm not going to say by trade, I'm going to say in my heart. Play and recreation and the opportunity to just grow while you're doing something fun, that is really meaningful. We need to make sure that we understand that when students play, they are learning. Like, I don't care what age it is. When as adults are playing, we're learning. And so TheraPlay is an important part of what we're doing to help heal our younger children for sure. And eventually it should just go up all the way through 12th grade, which is the reason why we have the teen lounge that hasn't been fully operational yet. But just based on what has happened, that needs to get fully operational at the high school.
Yeah. So then there's that. So get in touch with the school. Be looking out for Sammy Jones, and he's going to do the whole parent support thing, because our parents need support, they need resources, they need information.
They need healing.
They need healing,
Absolutely.
right? And so there's that. And then there is Pray as One. That's a local prayer organization
I haven't heard
where they get together and pray all the time, and they go by the schools.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
saw them, yeah.
And they're praying for the schools. There's one group that goes to the schools on the weekends before Monday morning and pray for the schools.
See, and I
just
didn't
pray
even know
over-
that.
Yeah, they pray over the building. So there are different ways you can join. You don't have to come by the school like Dr. Walters was talking about. You don't have to come by the school to check on your grandchildren or your nephew or your niece. This is the all hands on deck that we're talking about. This is step up and be a part of the solution, not a part of the problem.
So when I was a superintendent in Chicago Heights, a special ed school, starting in 2008, and the person that trained me, his name is Mr. Ron Bean. He was my board president, and he literally, I feel like he trained me to be a superintendent. When I got ready to come to Kankakee, one of the things he said to me was that the school is a symptom of the larger community. And he said, so if the school is struggling, that means the community is struggling. And so I thought to myself, oh, that shouldn't be a big deal because I'm a social worker and I understand systems theory and I want to work on healing the entire community while I help the school. Well, that has been a load, it has been a challenge because I don't know that we as a Kankakee community understand how much healing we need.
Oh, yeah. That's good. Just
That is good.
let that sink in.
Right
Yeah.
there, marinate.
So if we can start there, I think that probably be a good place to kind of say, let's leave on that note. Like, have we really embraced that we as a community need healing?
We need healing.
All of us do. I do.
I do.
All of us.
Definitely,
We
I'm sure
all,
we all
you
do,
know,
yeah.
we have our personal stuff,
Yeah,
and then there's our community stuff. None of us are happy about this stuff. It hurts, it's painful. But the response cannot be to just be hurling out slurs and blaming everybody.
Can I just have to say, so there are people from New York and all over the place that are finding me on Twitter, finding me on Instagram. There are a couple of people that found me on Twitter and tagged Lorenz. So of course, and I'm a mom. I'm an African American mom. I'm a black mom. So of course I'm gonna get upset when you're tagging my son into some harassment. So I said, please do not tag my son in any harassment, any mess. Since this has gone on for about 24 hours, those two people that I'm talking about in particular, one from New York, and I don't know where the other person is from, we have started a dialogue on Twitter in 24 hours. Why can't we in this community start a dialogue in a year? Like, why can't we start that dialogue? They came at me aggressive. Then I went back, I'm gonna be honest with you, I went back aggressive, but now we're actually communicating. Like, the person is telling me how the pandemic affected them in terms of their mental health. And that was a trigger for me when I wrote that statement about who he or she, I couldn't tell, is actually telling me about their own experience and why they felt the way they felt about what I wrote. Why can't we do this in this small community with 26,000 people when I can do that with someone from New York and some other state that I have never even met?
Yeah. I think my of late, just observing so many things, pain make you do strange things.
Yeah.
wow, yeah.
It
That's
really
a real
does.
thing.
It'll cut you off from people. It'll cut you off from your own destiny. You know?
So if the adults feel it like that, can you imagine what
What
our
the
kids
children
are
are
feeling?
feeling.
That's something that we really need to think about before we start. Like, we really need to think about what are we sacrificing, how many kids are being sacrificed based on what I'm saying in this moment right now. And to all the pastors, I mean, you're a pastor, if you can please appeal to them. You know, the conversations have been had, some of the meetings that we've
The
had.
community forum needs to be in the community too.
So,
So can we
just-
appeal to that?
Yeah, I definitely have to agree with
We have a church on every block.
Dean Sykes, what she said. One of the things is there was a particular incident, I believe, 2 years ago, that had nothing to do with the school district, but more within the city limits as it relates to gun violence. And it was the district who kind of stepped in to provide a space for the community to come together to talk on several different occasions, one being at the high school, the other was at King Middle School. And so a lot of times when it comes to issues that are out of the scope of the district has always been responsive to that.
Because it affects our kids.
And because it affects our kids. And I just, in this particular instance, when we're asking for the churches to step up, I do not feel as though the district should be reaching out to the churches to ask the churches, hey, can we provide? But communication works both ways. So I am pleading with our clergy, our leaders. We can't put everything on the district. And so when I said I don't want the district to be reaching out to the churches, I'm not saying it in that instance, but just saying that we cannot have expectations on them and them alone. But we all should come to the table to work together to resolve the issues that are affecting our kids, because what happens in the schools affect the community. What happens in the community affects the schools. So I am pleading with our clergy, We have a church almost on every other corner within the Black community. We have a liquor store almost on every other corner. We have a chicken shack.
Yeah, I was raised on a liquor store.
We got a chicken shack almost on every other corner, a tobacco or a cigarette shop on every other corner. But we have just as many churches. And in every church, there's a leader, there's an overseer. And so if we can just please come together to continue to have this discussion.
I just want to make a comment about this. Dr. Rashard Ritchie.
Yeah.
What's it called again? Indisputable something?
Yeah, with Dr. Rashard Ritchie.
Okay. I just want Dr. Rashard Ritchie to have the four of us on his show, because he used my picture without giving me an opportunity to say anything. So Dr. Ritchie, the four of us would like to be on your show to clarify some of the things that you said that weren't exactly all true. So I just had to say that. I just had to.
Yeah, that was appropriate. Since we're in the moment of truth. Kankakee forgives.
Yep,
Kankakee
Kankakee Forgives is a
forgives.
movement to reduce violence through the act of forgiving. You
It's
see those
powerful,
purple
too.
signs all around. We've talked to hundreds of students, community members. I mean, it's brought in ex-gang members. And I mean, when you got dudes, like I spent 22 years in prison. One dude he went in prison when he was 16.
Wow.
And I met him when he was 56. He had just got out. Spent 40 years in prison. He said, man, if I would have knew about this forgiveness, he said, this thing right here would have saved me 40 years of my life.
And that's what I don't want to happen to our
To our
children.
kids, yeah.
To lose their future because of the pain that they're feeling and acting out in the school and in the community. So
Yeah.
I will say that I do know that there's a point of no return. There's a point of no return with that teacher. There's a point of no return when a child picks up a gun and shoots another child. There is a point of no return. But can we get them before they get to
the
that point?
of no return, yeah.
Like, that's
Yeah.
what I'm just asking, there are no throwaway children.
Right.
Like, we need to take care of all of our children.
Yeah, so as we check out, so you heard instruction, I just want to reiterate. So stop by the school, try to get with the administrator to find out what you can do to help.
Should I tell the termination process?
Yeah.
Okay, really quickly. Legally, we cannot terminate someone the moment they do something. There has to be a
The
process.
due process.
The first thing you have to do is, if you put them on unpaid leave, that begins them losing something which they can sue you for. Once there's a loss, they can sue you for the loss. So when you're seriously thinking about termination, the best thing to do is put them on a paid leave. So the first, you get him out of the building, put him on, he was not dragged out of the building. He calmly left the building. And he was escorted, but not dragged out. The first thing you do is put him on a paid leave, because you don't want there to be a loss while you're investigating. Investigation means that we pull all the statements together, all the videos, we package it together, we send it to the attorney. The attorney reviews it because he's got a contract, he's a licensed teacher with a contract. that the attorney reviews it, says, okay, you're missing this, you're not missing that. Then it has to go for a recommendation from the principal to HR. Then HR does a recommendation to the board, and it has to go on the board agenda. The board agenda has to be posted 48 hours in advance. So it made no sense to do an emergency board meeting. We have a board meeting on Monday. So if you check the board agenda, you will see the results of an investigation that happened in 24 hours. And so I saw someone said, Illinois State Board of Education, are you doing something? They would do more to us if we do what you all are asking us to do than they would do if we're following the procedure that we're following. If we skip that procedure, the Board of Education could say reinstate them. So,
Somebody is saying, thanks for breaking it down.
oh, you're welcome.
Yeah, so, all right, so get in touch with the school.
And they can use this live as a point of reference.
Yeah, and you can use this live as a
You've
point.
heard Dr. Walters on social media.
Yep, yep.
So that they'll know.
The other thing I cannot stress enough is for our pastors to get involved. Reach out to the school. We understand, especially in a community like ours, our pastors are bivocational, so you may not have time as a pastor. Ask your pastor if you can, on behalf of your church, just start something to help the school or the school district with people in the church. It's a lot of kids. And then the other thing is to pray. Don't stop praying. And Pray as One is a prayer group that prays all the time. You can find them on Facebook. And then look for information from Sammy Jones on parenting information, on parent groups, parent support. And don't forget, reach out to your family members. You don't have to come to the school for that. Reach out to your family members. Make sure that their kids are okay. Make sure they're okay. Ask them, do they need help? Can I pick your son up? Is there a program that your son or daughter can't be in because you don't have a ride? I can pick them up and take them.
And there is Twilight Academy
There's
and
Twilight
Saturday
Academy.
School
There's Saturday
for academic interventions and all of that.
And that's not
Hire
new.
tutors.
Like
Not
we
new.
had Twilight Academy, well, we had Saturday School during the pandemic, and we added Twilight Academy.
And then the last thing, we're going to, our next move would be to have a community forum where you can be clearly presented with a comprehensive, maybe not comprehensive, but an overview of all of the different ways you can get involved with the school district, all the different ways you can help. And if you would like to be a part of that conversation, just text the word MOVE, M-O-V-E. I literally just created this group. M-O-V-E
That's good.
to 815-707-3007. It's going to shoot you back a text, a couple of you're agreeing to get text, but after that, you just get the email address. When Dr. Walters and her administration says, okay, we're going to move forward, this is our next move, you'll get an email from us saying, okay, this is the next meeting, the next day, the next time, the next place.
But I really would like to see the community forum in the community, not in the school, in the community.
In the church.
Yeah.
We
In
can
the
move them
church.
around the churches.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that could be a helpful thing that you may be able to do is say, hey, I talked to our pastor or who's ever over space and say, we have these days and times available. This is how we can help. So you can, and when you send that text, it'll come, it's coming to me, actually. It's going to come to me. It's not a group text or anything like that. Response is an individual. So repeat the number, 815-707-3007.
Did you put it
You may put it in the, oh, you can ready put it in
Yeah,
there.
815-707. So,
Can I shout out to Stinky for having my back on Twitter?
What up, Stink?
that's thing.
What up, Stink?
Yay!
All right. I misspelled a word. Okay, so I'll try to correct that.
Shout out to all the local entrepreneurs.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
Everybody.
That small business owners that have stopped by to offer your help, your encouragement to our kids.
We have a large community
you.
partnership. So we have a community partnership grant while Aaron is typing. that we're only required by the state to have 2 partners. I think we have like 30 or 40 partners. And so, I mean, we've been talking about the negative side of our community, but there's some real amazing positive things
yes.
that happen in a community like Kankakee that doesn't happen in other places, especially the south suburbs where people keep moving around. So our shout out to our community partners. I want to say there's 30 or 40 of them.
Yes. Shout out to the barbers,
Yeah.
to the hairstylists,
The braiders.
the braiders, like, shout out to all
A lot
of
of
y'all.
people, and so, yeah, a lot of people do help. It's like Travis said, it's a lot of people that do want to help, and it's a lot of people that do help, so
If
everybody
it's something
deserves-
that you don't understand about CBE, competency-based education, just ask, because it's futuristic for education. We're not the only school doing
No, it's a national, like, it's not a new thing. It's actually on the East Coast, they've been doing it for
it
10 to 20 years.
for a long time.
So, and I hesitate to say this, but Bourbonnais is a CBE district, Mantino is a CBE district. We all do it differently. But the one thing that's consistent is that we all have the waiver. And we need it. I mean, considering the teacher shortage, we need to be flexible in our hiring practices. Not that we don't want to hire licensed teachers, but we need to cover our classrooms. There's 47 CBE districts in the state of Illinois. They are actually looking at kind of streamlining what CBE is actually looks like. And I'm assuming and I hope that in 2 or 3 years, they may open it up to the rest of the state. There are school districts that want to be a CBE district. So I don't know what'll happen to it in the next couple of years, but Slate is not CBE. The grading system is not CBE. CBE is a framework that has nothing to do with the grading system.
All right, I'm gonna read this one final comment. Our community, this is from Ryan. Our community is amazing, and the positive doesn't get enough attention.
100%.
That's
Right.
real.
We
That's
agree with
real.
that 100%.
And let me just say this, as I watch the comments on social media, especially since I've been back in Kankakee, and when I've lived in Kankakee for all my life, but since I've been back as a superintendent, I think the comments are racial. I think that we can have the same issue in one place and no one says a word, and then have the almost a mirror situation in another place, and people are calling our children animals.
Yep.
I don't like it. I think people need to stop calling our children animals. I think people need to stop saying that they don't deserve things. Like, they deserve every possible thing that I can give them before I leave. I do not like the fact that our children are considered animals when other children are doing some of the same things.
Or worse.
Yeah.
And so, like, that bothers me, and it's been bothering me for 8 years. Stop calling our children animals. Stop saying they need to go to prison.
Yes,
Stop
yes.
talking about
Yep,
Kankakee
yep.
children.
Grown people.
It's not
Yep.
right.
Yep. Yeah, I have to, I was gonna be quiet.
I'm sorry,
but
I just,
that
she just called me red.
that kind of touched me as well. I believe an hour away from here, a school district just dealt with an incident where a teacher, Caucasian teacher, had a hit list out on students. And based off of some of the evidence that they were finding within that hit list, a lot of those students were minority. And so we take every issue serious when it comes to our kids. And some of the comments that I've seen as well, where some adults were justifying not necessarily the teacher's behavior by saying, well, what triggered the teacher to say this, or what transpired, almost as if his behavior was the result of some action. And when you look at a lot of things that happens within a lot of the communities around the nation as it relates to police violence, anytime you see a shooting of a African American or a minority person at the hands of a white police officer, the first thing we say is, well, what did that person do? this person is unarmed, this person is, don't have a weapon, don't have anything, but yet we feel, we did it with Trayvon Martin, we did it with Philando Castile, we did it with George Floyd, we did it with so many, every time. We did it with Breonna Taylor, sleeping in her room, and we say, well, what did she do? She was asleep. But yet we always seem to justify the behaviors of the aggressor. And so one of the things that I was saying, I just, you know, it's a heart issue, and it goes back to the system.
Yep.
And so I definitely agree with Dr. Walters. Keep y'all negativity, y'all mouths off of our students, because we are going to stand behind our students. No, we're not going to condone their behavior. No, we're not going to back them when they are wrong or when they've done something that was just so outrageous, but we are going to support the best way we can in order to avoid those issues or those bad things. We have, like I said, very smart, intelligent students, young men, young women within our district of all ethnicities.
Yes,
and so we
absolutely.
are going to continue to support them. But we need the adults to stay in adult places, because I think a lot of people are trying to live through children or live through kids, and y'all need to
That is a
mature
real
and
thing.
grow up and let these kids be kids.
Yeah, let
So-
them enjoy their childhood.
Yeah, and so I want to say that because I have to share this. So in the 1930s, y'all probably know this. Y'all probably heard of the doll
The doll
test.
test, yeah.
And, you know, so if you don't know, that was where they brought in African-American children, and they had them look at from a white doll, scaling it all the way up to a dark-skinned doll. And the perception that these children had of themselves based on the color of their skin was just jacked up. It like breaks your heart to watch it. That was done in the 30s. They redid it again, just like maybe 15 years ago. Same results. But here's what I want to say especially to my non-black and brown people. If that perception, which people were like trying to figure out where does that come from? If that perception is in the hearts of young black children,
They're acculturated.
it's got to be in the hearts of young white children. They just weren't asked the question. And so I'm saying that to say that this is, and Travis made me think of it, that's a part of the system that is causing a perception of black people to be perpetuated. And no matter where the system is coming from, the only way to offset the system is through having the hard conversations, doing some serious heart checks, and really getting together and being intentional. And I'm gonna tell y'all straight up, this just happened in this building last week. I'll tell y'all this. Last week, I was kind of running late. I had all my mentors together. Part of my mentors, about a third of my mentors are African American. All the rest of them are white. So they were waiting on me to come and do a team exercise. I was like, okay, so when I came in, they were all in a circle, and the leader intentionally said, no, y'all all mix up. So when I got here, I was like, well, all I want to do is just take a picture and we leaving. So what I want y'all to do is just make a straight line. Just put the chairs up and make a straight line from here to the walls, like 35 of them. Without even thinking. It was all white and then all black.
Wow.
And so when I said to them, I said, do y'all notice that y'all segregated yourselves? So they started looking down the line and they were
didn't
like,
even realize
oh,
it.
Wow.
Yeah, they didn't even realize it.
it's just in you.
Yep.
And so I think that it's learned behavior, and we need to do some serious heart checks about how we really feel about our children
And about each other.
and about each other.
And to all of our students, to all of our kids, to all of our youth, we owe y'all an apology for how we have conducted ourselves as adults in your presence.
Yes.
And we ask
owe
you to forgive us.
Please
Yes.
forgive us.
Yes.
Please forgive us.
Like corporately, because we have not been the best examples of unity.
That's good.
We haven't been the best example of respect.
Compassion.
And we need to bring honor back to our culture. We need to bring the village back to our culture. So to every young person, every student, every child, forgive us for not being the light that you've needed to see or the example that you've needed to see, even in our anger, our disappointment, or our misunderstandings.
Yeah.
Please forgive us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, all right, so God, thank you for this time. We
Thank
just
you,
ask you
Lord.
to bless our efforts going forward, bless everybody that watches
Can we
this
end with a
now,
prayer?
and
Can we end with a prayer?
I'm praying.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry. Yeah, so we just thank you for this platform. Thank you for the people that were able to watch, the people that will watch later. Lord, this is so far beyond us.
Yes.
This is not a problem that we can solve just simply by rolling our sleeves up. We really need your help. And so we ask you to help us. We need wisdom. We need healing. We need heart change. We just need you to just forgive us too as a community. Forgive all of us and restore us. And we thank you for it. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. All right, well, thank you for joining, and we'll see y'all at the next forum.